This Sunday, we remember the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, when close to 3,000 people died in New York City, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. We also remember the life of Queen Elizabeth II, who broke a long-standing royal tradition by singing the Star-Spangled Banner at a 9/11 memorial service shortly after the attacks. As should be apparent, one of the keys to preventing terrorism is a strong border with competent immigration controls. However, we are currently witnessing the opposite of this at our southern border with devastating results. This fiscal year, more than 750 migrants have died at the border. Casualties are undoubtedly inflated by immigration policies that encourage such dangerous trips. Joining me now to discuss this and more is U.S. Representative Michael Guest. He serves on the House Homeland Security Committee, the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and the House Ethics Committee. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District. Congressman Guest, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Good to talk to you. First, it's always a somber holiday. What are your thoughts as we approach the 21st anniversary of 9/11?
You know, 9/11 is a day that myself and all Americans who were of age will never forget where they were when they found out about the terrorist attacks on 9/11. I remember at that time I was an assistant prosecutor and I was on my way into the office when I was told that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. I got into my office and like many Americans, early on, the information was that it was a small plane that had hit the World Trade Center. And it was not until the second strike on the World Trade Center that we actually knew that our nation was under attack. We know that later a subsequent plane struck the Pentagon and a fourth plane crashed outside of a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And a day we'll never forget. I remember going into the courtroom that day and the judge doing something on that day that he had never done before, has not done since. He opened court with the word of prayer. And so there, the judge leading us in a moment of first silence and then prayer. You had prosecutors, defense attorneys, law enforcement officers, and criminal defendants all there in the courtroom praying for our nation. So a day that we will truly never forget. I had the opportunity last year to join members of the Homeland Security Committee as we held hearings there in New York to commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And we must remain vigilant. While that has been now 2+ decades ago, we know that there are still individuals abroad who would seek to cause American harm. And we can never let our guard down, and we can never let what happened on 9/11 happen again to our nation.
Congressman, that scene you just described of being in court and having a judge lead a moment of prayer with defense attorneys and prosecutors and even defendants all praying together, it helps us recall a moment of unity that really seems to have passed for our country, and regrettably so. And at that time, one of the anthems that we repeated was "Never Forget," because of the significance of that moment. Do you think that we are, as a country, remaining appropriately vigilant against those who want to harm our country?
You know, I believe that law enforcement is remaining vigilant, and we're seeing the continued work together between federal, state, and local law enforcement. I am extremely troubled with what I'm seeing along the southwest border as we continue to see month after month record number of immigrants entering our country. The last figures that we had were just under 200,000 for the month of July. That broke a streak of 5 months with 200,000 plus encounters. We know that under this president, we've seen roughly 3.5 million encounters along the southwest border. We've encountered people who have been on the terrorist watch list. If you look just the sheer numbers themselves, the number that have been encountered along the southwest border is greater than the population of 21 of our states across this great union. And so those numbers continue to grow each and every day. And this administration has either been unwilling or unable to prevent that. And so my greatest concern not is that we're going to see terrorists come in and hijack airlines like we saw on 9/11, but we're going to see them come across our porous southwest border and then come into this country and cause death and destruction.
Now, Congressman, you say there that the administration is either unable or unwilling to do anything about it. Do you have a theory as to which it is?
It is probably a combination of both. One of the things that we saw this president do, President Biden, is day one roll back the successful policies of the Trump administration, stopped wall construction. And look, we know that walls work. I've been to the southwest border multiple times. Was there twice in April. We'll be returning again in 2 weeks. I'll tell you that the areas where we have built fencing, built walls, if you will, those areas prevent immigrants from coming across the border. The areas where we do not have that wall construction is where we see the number of immigrants continue to pour across. We saw that this administration very quickly ended the Remain in Mexico policy. Again, a very successful Trump era policy. And they are doing everything within their power to end Title 42, which allows us to very rapidly return back to their native countries, immigrants who come across the border. And so this administration has seen a record number of immigrants. And with the flood of immigrants, we've seen a record amount of narcotics that are coming into the country each and every day. We only intercept the tip of the iceberg of narcotics that were seized. Last year, fiscal year 2021, we seized over 2.6 billion with a B dosage units of fentanyl and over 17 billion dosage units of methamphetamine. So we continue to see drugs pour into our country. We continue to see unvetted aliens come into our country. And it is just a matter of time until we see that we have something occur along the lines of 9/11 because we are unable to secure and vet those individuals, secure our borders and vet those individuals coming into our country.
And that is, of course, the nightmare scenario that we can draw a connection between the porous border and additional terrorist deaths. We know that there are deaths happening, both in migrants and the results of the drugs that are coming into the country through the border. But we do not want to see another terrorist strike. And that is, of course, the concern. But now we're seeing the crisis at the border begin to impact states that are not on the border. And that is due in large part because Texas Governor Abbott has made news by busing people who enter his state illegal to cities that had previously declared themselves to be sanctuary cities. But they aren't enthusiastic about what Governor Abbott is doing. Here's D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Let's play clip one.
Today, I'm providing a situational update on the ongoing humanitarian crisis that's taking place in our city as a result of the actions of the governors of Texas and Arizona. Anybody in my position likes to know what the environment is. Unknowns are bad. And what we're dealing with is a big unknown. And it's an unknown that's being imposed on us.
And here also is Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Let's play clip 3.
It is absolutely un-American. And I urge him, he professes to be a Christian. This is not the Christianity and the teachings of the Bible that I know.
Now, Congressman Guest, what's your reaction to these mayors? They have declared themselves sanctuary cities, but now that they're being asked to be a sanctuary, they don't seem to be enthusiastic about that.
They don't. And I hope the comments that we just saw were directed at the president of the United States, not the governor of Texas. The president of the United States, he is the one that has caused this crisis, and they need to make sure that they call him out. For the mayor of Washington, D.C. to declare a public health emergency over the few number of immigrants that have been dropped off there in Washington, D.C. is really comical. What these mayors need to do is these mayors need to join with Republicans and call out this president and demand that this president secure the border. This should not be a problem. This the state of Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. I think what we see is what the Texas governor is doing is he is making every community a border community. And these mayors are having just a small fraction of what we are seeing occurring in our southwest border communities. And so they need to call and the balls and strikes, and they need to call this president out. This is not something that has been caused by Governor Abbott. This problem has been caused by President Biden, and they should work with Republicans to make sure that he knows and make sure that we demand that he secure and close the border.
Congressman, guess that raises a good question because not every state on the southern border is a red state. California borders Mexico as well. Is that border more secure? Why do we not hear about the migration happening at the California border?
Well, you've got a smaller geographical area. I mean, when you compare the border of California with Mexico and the border of Texas, they have such a small geographical area. And many of the areas of the California borders have been secure with walls and fencing, areas that we don't see in many other parts of our southwest border. And so they have avoided a lot of the humanitarian crisis, just the number of immigrants who have poured into the country. Many of those are coming in into Arizona, into New Mexico, into Texas. And then these governors are to alleviate some of the stresses on some of these communities, are choosing to relocate these areas in other places, New York, Chicago, and other areas, Washington, D.C. And now we see that these mayors are now complaining about that. And so, again, they are suffering just a small fraction of what we're seeing along the southwest border. And they need to help Republicans call this president out and demand that we secure our borders just like we did under former President Donald Trump.
And to that point, do you think that sharing the burden of the border crisis will get some Democrats to pressure the White House to solve the problem?
I do. I mean, you can see that Republicans alone, that we've been unsuccessful to get this administration to do anything. We've called out the administration. We've held hearings. We've questioned Secretary Mayorkas about what he and his administration are doing to secure the border. And we've got no answers. A matter of fact, we've been told the border is secured, that there's not a crisis. But here we see the mayor of Washington, D.C., admit that just with the small number of immigrants that she has in her city, that she is to the point, a crisis point, to where she's had to declare a public health emergency. And so I think the only way we're going to get this administration to move forward, to move off of some of the liberal viewpoints it has, is we're going to have Democratic mayors, Democratic governors coming forward and helping us pressure the White House.
Well, I'm going to have to cut you off there because we're out of time. Thanks for being with us.